Thank you so much. As they've introduced me, I'm Daisy, and I'll be talking about how we can foster authentic, sustainable community-led development. And I'll be giving some lessons from our chapters. To just give a background on the chapters, I hope you can see my screen. We are looking at community-led development.
Daisy,
but what is the basis for
present mode on so we can see a little better?
Okay.
Thank you.
So we see that there are so many aspects which are the basis for a community. We have the geography, we have interests, preferences, traditions, beliefs, identity, and characteristics. But what we've seen, especially within the African context, the issue of identity, the issue of traditions, the issue of beliefs tend to overshadow or to become more recognized than some others, and they affect how people make decisions and the rest. For example, gender issues, children's rights, these are all embedded within the traditions and beliefs of some communities, or what we call communities. Has it shifted? So looking at a community, we look at it as people living together. Maybe they have a common interest, common characteristics, and similar natural experiences. And these are just some of the few aspects. And today's discussion, I think, will focus on those to find out exactly who is a community, who isn't, how do we actually define and become part of this, this community. Other aspects that have been coming up, for example, who can speak on behalf of a community? These are all questions we'll be looking at. We have the leaders within the systems, we have community members, we have people who have been elected by government, elected by the people, but also it can be people who are in one geographical area. And in some cases, it can also be a group or an NGO or a civil society. So as an NGO, for example, as Hunger Project, can we speak on behalf of a community, or have we been speaking on behalf of a community? Can an international NGO speak on behalf of a community? Who speaks, or who, if people speak, who actually has the right to speak? Who speaks the truth? who knows the community? So these are, so who can speak and who has the information are all aspects on the community on who can speak and actually who has the voice for the community. In the movement for community-led development, we believe that development is local. It should be starting from where the people we want, the community we believe we are speaking for, whether it is a geographical, whether it is people with the same beliefs. So this is where we want to start from, the local aspect, the grounded aspect of this, this voice. So for community-led development, we were looking at trying to shift the power to address poverty and reverse growing inequality and climate change by rolling out community-led development across countries. And this is where we have a vision of actually having a truly community-led development, where the people or the communities we are talking about have dignity, they have voice and agency for all as the best way to end poverty. This is just, I've been meant to understand, this is the background. Most of us are aware of what community-led development is, so I'll just go through quickly. But here we are looking at this vision of giving a community, the person, the dignity and the voice. But we also want to create, we are trying to create a platform, a social movement platform, where we can co-create a way forward and journey it together. We go together as a movement, as a social gathering. And in this case, we are looking at using some systems practices to be able to create and manage collective change that lasts. So in this case, we are looking at systems, but we are also looking at sustainability as well as having the communities we serve behind it. So as we speak, we have so many chapters. So many chapters have been formed across the globe. You can see the picture there. I think Australia remains maybe, but most of the other continents, we have a chapter represented in most of these, in almost all the continents. And we have so many in Africa. So when we talk of national chapters, we are looking at stakeholders in each country coming together and trying to make sure that the voices, the dignity of the people we represent is actually heard. And we have people ranging from all the local, middle, and the national civil society organizations. We have individuals, we have international NGOs, governments, private sector, academia, and everybody is welcome. So these are our national chapters, all people who are coming in with a common belief that we can use, communities can lead their own development. It is the same with the global movement in the sense that we add the international stakeholders, we add the donors, the multilaterals, the global civil society are still with the academia, research, and think tanks. So we have the national chapters, we have the global players, everybody is welcome. There's no cost to participate, only the commitment to community-led development. And as you are aware, I think, I understand there's a chapter in Netherlands also, this is the same chapter. So we see it's also self-governed, people passionate. Now we are looking at views driven by people. They have people who are really interested. They are co-creating their own visions. They are cultivating a pipeline of leaders. And mainly they are fueled by and for grassroots voice and agency of the local communities. And we also try to look for the solid partnerships at all the levels. So this is how we are looking at the national chapters. And what we hope to achieve, there's the theory behind this movement, the movement for community-led development, where if we are starting at the national movement chapters, we have, we have two aspects. If we go up with national partnerships, we can have national engagement and mobilization, where we can input into the decentralization and devolution frameworks within specific countries and have here the convergence of systems and have systems change. But also if we look at the lower part, the lower route, we can have facilitation and implementation of partnerships where we have community-led development in practice by the civil society organizations, local NGOs, and these ones, they are looking at bringing in tailored experience and evidence. Where we have the convergence systems, we have added changes, including capacity and commitment, which eventually should lead to country-owned embedded local-led development. And once we all do this, combined with the efforts at national engagement, we can see the transformation we need, which would have more and better community-led development that has dignity and justice for the people and the planet. So basically that was all background. And now, if we really now focus at what we've been having, what are have been our experiences, what have we learned as we've been moving forward. Originally, the movement for community-led development national chapters, the model was that the international NGOs who were the members of the global chapter would fuel or force or guide the national chapters to participate, to implement, and to take on the community-led development approach. But this didn't really take off because I think in some cases there was differences in interest between the global and the national NGOs. National NGOs sometimes would be having other pressing priorities. They have different priorities, what is at the global. In some cases, or most cases actually, they were not funded. We say, just go and implement, you do this without extra funding. And there was a sort of a disconnect also between the country and the international NGO strategies. So if we have different strategies, then definitely this was becoming a challenge. And the NGOs, the international NGO groups in many countries, they had different goals. There was also limited agency for new partnerships. And the holistic approach of the community-led development, it doesn't augur well with the most sectors which are in silos. So with all this, we saw a shift. And looking at domestic civil society, they also didn't have the voice they needed, the agency. They had the passive attitude. And in some cases, we found that there was intimidation. We have these big organizations, you are a small NGO. Once you try to voice your concerns or your beliefs, maybe you would be perceived as a small NGO without voice, or you don't know what you're doing. So there was that intimidation. And in some cases, the domestic civil society organizations also assumed that it was about getting funding opportunities. If we join the movement, we'll be able to get more money. Some don't have enough money. And maybe there was also no idea what else it might be, lack of experience in movements. Movements usually have been associated with the politics. So it's, some people are like, is that a political thing? Is that, for example, in Uganda, we have the National Resistance Movement as the ruling party. So when we talk of the word movement, it becomes sort of political, a political party from the beginning. So these are some of the areas which we found we were addressing as we went along. So the lessons learned is that eventually, when we couldn't rally the international NGOs at the national level, the domestic groups or domestic civil society organizations, the local NGOs found their voices. And here we have been able, or that's where we see that we have national chapters, which are by the domestic civil society, which they are working, they are for them, and they are about domestic civil society. So this is what came out of the whole process. And it is also, we have seen that we are helping them to understand that it's not about the top-down approach that takes time and deep discussion. We have a new tone and a kind of relationship building where once grasped the true nature of the proposed movement alternative, we have where we are having the true leaders and wide visionaries and actors. And that's when things started to happen. So once people grasped the true nature, then we saw things happening. And the new platform is providing real value. People are proud. This is our movement. This is our chapter. We are the ones who designed the principles. We are the ones who designed this. We are the ones who are driving the program. So it has real value for the people. And the structure basically is about convening good people and organizations, and creating a space and a process and building on what is emerging. So this is how we have seen how it has worked. And in this sense now, we find that the international NGOs who are truly committed to the community-led development, they are actually offering true value, important value to the national chapters. They continue to provide capacity development. They continue to provide learning opportunities and demand-driven technical support. They provide recognition and solidarity. which is actually important if you know that you have support at the global level. And they also, they are good for networking, both in country and for international connections. So now with this, the major gain is the meaningful relationships with genuine domestic civil society in many ways, which I think we are looking at or see as the shifting the power. Mainly when the domestic groups or the local NGOs took over, and you can, I think, stop me, I think I'm about to reach time. The major added value, we are seeing widespread and inspirational engagement and participation. A lot of people, a lot of NGOs, civil society, they are all clamoring, they want to be in. There's peer learning, we are learning from each other. One chapter learns from the other. One member of a group of a chapter is learning from the others. And we have lots of diverse and meaningful accomplishments in different countries, but also now in different sectors. Some have more expertise maybe in water, the other ones more expertise in gender. So all these together, we are getting a lot of accomplishments. And there was a small grant which was given to some of the former chapters. This has gone a long way in exciting the local chapters. I'll just give one case study of the national chapter Uganda. Vic, you are becoming uncomfortable. Am I?
You are ahead of time, so take your time. Yes, you still have 8 minutes.
Okay, so we have the Right to Grow project, which is actually coordinated in the Netherlands. It is a consortium of 6 countries and also 6 organizations. And it is breaking new ground in terms of using the domestic chapters, domestic NGOs and civil society organizations in reaching the most neglected people in terms of maybe those which are remote or less formal, and it has been able to reach a diverse set of people. It has also enabled, the value is that it has enabled practical and tailored capacity development for the participating civil society organizations, for example, in developing their own voice, agency, and also individually and collectively. And we have also realized that it is cost effective. We are using local organizations, civil society organizations, local groups, which actually reach the people. And this has improved the quality in terms of genuine and appropriate programming and conceived and delivered by people within the lived experience and proximate to the leaders. And we hope that this will contribute to the sustainability after the Right to Grow project ends. So basically, to recap or to say, what defines a community? Is it geography, identity, or both? And based on the chosen definition, who are the representatives? I think for us, we've seen that our communities are multifaceted. As we are here, we are a community already here. And they are always changing depending on belief, on what is happening, I think, at a particular time. But it can also be geography, history, or others. What we've seen is that every society should have a diverse and thriving domestic civil society, which can offer multifaceted representation on any given day for any given community. Civil society is underdeveloped or sometimes unrecognized in many African countries. And this is so much out of the legacy of colonialism and neo-colonialism, which needs to be rectified, as it has been done in some countries, for example, even in Indonesia. But as civil society, we should exist at all levels. And we do exist at all levels, the local, the middle. We need to be networked, and we need to be fed by a pipeline of leaders, volunteers, professionals. And that's why we can say we are a community We are also community-led development. And if we are working with the business and the locals and the nationals, that's where we can see sustainable development. So yes, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Daisy. You still have 4 minutes left. So if you want to add something, be my guest, but.
Yeah, so basically, okay.
Please go ahead.
Yes, so basically, I think that was what we are looking at. Maybe I'll go back to the change we are seeking and emphasize a little bit more of this. Where we are looking at as movement chapters, we have several spaces in which we are engaging and in which we can engage. We can engage our governments, we can engage multinational corporations, we can engage multilaterals, we can engage at several levels to be able to have the policies, the spaces, the environment within which our communities can be supported. And that, if we can change policies, if we can have the right policies, if we can advocate for the right budgets, the right environment, and when we combine that with where communities, people who are working at the local levels are also practicing community-led development, where they are allowing communities, their agency, their work to be heard. Then given their shared experience and the healthy, productive, resilient communities being created, if we combine that with the decentralization and devolution, then we can have this convergence of systems. We can see if we need to have this shared aspiration. Do we really want to see poverty ending? Do we really want to see the systems change? Do we need to see the shift in the power? So if we can have this shared aspiration, we learn and adapt, and we have this continuous engagement. We are seeing this space of convergence where we'll see the systems change. Early changes, including capacity and commitment, where we can have country-owned, embedded, locally led development. And this is, to me, truly something which can lead to more and better community-led development, and also dignity and justice for the people and the planet. So basically, I think that's that. Maybe I'll wait for the questions. That is fine with me. So thank you so much.
My name is Heinz Greijn. I have been facilitating a parallel community of practice parallel to this one. This one is about community-led development. And in Partos, we also have another community of practice, which is called the community of practice Shift the Power. And those are actually two very much related issues. And listening to Daisy, she was also already making many references to the Shift the Power movement. I think our division of roles is between these two communities of practice is that the community of practice on community-led development is much more about the relationship between communities and the rest of civil society. And in the community of practice Shift the Power, we are focusing more on the relation between NGOs in the north and NGOs in the south. Let me start with the role of these NGOs in amplifying the voice of communities. I think NGOs from the north and the south, they have actually a joint responsibility in amplifying these voices from communities. So you expect that those NGOs work together very closely. And that they listen to what communities have to say, and that they then take action to change and improve the situation of these people, especially the most marginalized people. And I think actually that is what most NGOs are doing. And you can always wonder, could they do a better job? No doubt they could. You can always think about ways for doing things more effectively, more efficiently. And that is actually what drives innovation. And that's why we have this community of practice within the framework of the Partos Learning and Innovation Program. Now, one of the bottlenecks I want to address in this presentation is about, and that is a bottleneck for NGOs to become better listeners and also better voice amplifiers. And that is the power imbalance between NGOs in the north and NGOs in the south. And now I'm going to my next sheet. Yes. In our partnerships, NGOs in the north tend to be more powerful than NGOs in the south. And that is a problem for various reasons. First, it's considered unfair, and it's also very annoying. Second, it also makes us all less effective in amplifying the voice of communities. And also that's mainly because the knowledge and the legitimacy of the NGOs in the south, those are being underutilized. And sometimes these southern NGOs, they are forced to listen more to the voice of donors and of their northern partners than to the voices of communities. That's somehow what the system does. And they are often micromanaged, and this limits them in developing their own capacities and developing their own strategies. Now, this problem is not new. It has been there for a long time. It has been recognized for over 2 decennia. One scientist in our community of practice, Alan Fowler, he started publishing about this already 30 years ago. And most of us agree that this must change. There's very little controversy about that, but the problem still persists. So you can wonder, why is such a problem that we have been recognizing for so long? Why is it still there? And this situation has led to the Shift the Power movement a couple of years ago. In 2019, also in the framework of that movement, members of Partos and their southern partners, they were together in a session to think what they could do to address this problem. And it was suggested that it would be useful to have a tool to make power more visible. And that's when we developed, before the community of practice started actually, we developed the Power Awareness tool in Shift the Power Lab, we called it. I'll not go into much detail how this Power Awareness tool works. Anyone who is interested, I can just give you the link where you can find it on the Partos website. But it's important to note that this tool is based on the notion that even if partners agree that there is a problem with power in their relationship and that something must change, then it's going to be still very hard to talk about power. And this is because power is in many ways not very visible, not very tangible. In fact, it's rather abstract. And it's because existing power relations, they're so much ingrained in our daily routine of doing things that we are often not aware that we are exercising power. Imagine you are a program manager sitting with a Dutch NGO in the center of a web of many other NGOs in the south, and you have to select a consultant to evaluate the program, or you have to finish a report and you want to send it quickly to the back donor in order to beat the deadline. It's very easy to take such decisions without consulting your partners in the south. But these decisions may have very important consequences, far-reaching consequences for your southern partners. Well, we are not even aware that we are exercising power by taking these decisions. So the Power Awareness tool is based on the idea that if you want to have a meaningful dialogue between partners about power, then you must address the question, who is taking important decisions in the partnership? So the idea, who is deciding about what, is at the heart of the Power Awareness tool. And experience has shown, because we have tested it and a couple of organizations are already working with it, the experience has shown that the tool is simple to use. You don't need to hire expensive facilitators from outside of your organization. It takes about half a day's workshop to sit with your partners around the table to use that tool. And it does make power relations visible. So I can recommend it to anyone. That was one thing. And significant progress can be made by critically reflecting on the relationships between partners within a partnership and take appropriate measures. But we also realize that it is important to look at more systemic factors that go beyond the relationship between partners. And that's when we started our community of practice, Shift the Power, about a year ago that was. And in that community of practice, we have members of Partos and their partners from the south, and a few experts who are very dedicated to this course. Our main aim in this community of practice is that we want to find practical solutions to the power problem at a higher systemic level. That is our main aim. We are aware that we are just one of the many players in this global Shift the Power movement, but we want to make a unique contribution to this movement. And we aim also for system change. The problem is that the aid system is very large, and we also need to be rather realistic about the scope of what we can influence and what is really beyond our sphere of influence. And therefore, we focus on one subsystem of this very large aid system, and those are the partnerships that are built around the Dutch policy framework for strengthening civil society. That is our focus. So the first thing we did was we started a working group to better understand this subsystem. And we wanted to understand what are the factors that lie at the root of the power imbalance in that system of partnerships built around the policy framework for strengthening civil society. And we found 14 factors. I'll not elaborate on those 14 factors because I don't have sufficient time for that, but it's all laid down in a paper that was drafted in this working group in the community of practice. And people who are interested, just contact me and I can share that paper with you. And we also believe that many of these factors that we identified that are applicable to this subsystem are also applicable to other parts of the aid system. Then we had a second working group, and that second working group looked at, what are organizations doing to counteract these systemic factors that cause these power imbalances in their partnerships. And we saw that organizations are doing quite a number of things, but the system doesn't give them enough room for maneuver to smoothen, it doesn't give enough room for maneuver to really solve the issue. So system change is needed, but the question is, what kind of change are we looking at? And that is the question that we are tackling now at the moment in this community of practice, Shift the Power. And what we are doing is, for the next couple of months, is we actually doing, I missed a couple of sheets, I see. Anyway. What we are doing in this community of practice for now is the first step. We call it envisioning. We are envisioning the partnerships that we want, and we'll focus in particular on the ideal division of roles that we see between NGOs from the north and NGOs from the south. What should we be really doing differently in a positive way in order to address this power issue adequately? Now, once we have those desired roles in sharp focus, we'll do the next step and we'll think of the type of system change that is needed to make these ideal relations possible. And then finally, in step number 3, we will determine what type of action we are going to undertake to contribute to this system change. And we are rather optimistic about the results we can achieve. We focus on a very specific donor that we know very well, and that's the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And the ministry has indicated many times that it's receptive to ideas about new ways of working together. And in fact, for them, this is really a priority. And this puts us in a position that we can make a unique contribution to the discussions about power in other global networks and platforms. I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you very much.